March 24, 2024, the implementing rules and regulations of what we now call the Internet Transactions Act of the Philippines was issued. So December 3, 2023, the Internet Transactions Act, the ITA, was passed. And the objective was to produce a regulatory framework for all internet transactions, especially during the pandemic where everyone had to transact online, right? There was really no regulatory framework. People had to rely heavily on the reputation of the platforms that they were using. But there was no means of redress through government channels, right? But now, the DTI established what they call the e-commerce bureau. Okay. So this is a division of the DTI that will cater to all issues pertaining to internet transactions. Unlike the Consumer Protection Act, where the coverage is really consumers themselves filing complaints with the DTI. Here, in the Internet Transactions Act, they look at all the players in the ecosystem. So they define the different business models and they indicate the roles and responsibilities on general terms of these different players. So we start off with a digital platform like Meta or Instagram or TikTok. So that's one group. They do not necessarily focus only on trade transactions. They do other things. They are a social network, for instance, right? But they have a segment that allows them to let merchants go online to sell their product. Okay. So that's one. Then you have what you call an e-marketplace, where their primary business is really to provide a space, no, in the digital space for online resellers, online sellers. So that's what you call the e-marketplace. An example would be Lazada, for instance. Okay. And then there are what you call the e-retailers, meaning these are stores that have their own online platform. Okay, so for instance, Zalora, right? That's an example of what we call that, an e-retailer. Then you have the online merchants. These are the merchants that go to these different platforms to sell their goods. Okay. So these are the different characters. And then as against that backdrop, you have your online consumer. So the online consumer is also specifically defined in that law. Here in the ITA, the protection is not limited to the online consumer. There is also protection afforded to online merchants, digital platforms, and e-marketplaces, only because there are specific roles that are to be played by each member or each player in the ecosystem. That's the primary rule there. So the idea here is, since we are coming up with a regulatory framework, the initiative is to come up with what you call an online database, okay, of businesses. So that means all the digital platforms that do business in the Philippines, all the online merchants that need to use these platforms, all the e-marketplaces, e-retailers have to register with the e-commerce bureau of the BPI. So when they register, they will also have to, like for instance, for the digital platforms, if they abide by the rules of the ITA, they would have to go into detail about the registrations of their different online merchants. That way you get to avoid fly-by-night merchants. So this process enables the government to enforce, for instance, internet transactions that sought to be when an online customer seeks redress.